We sit here today not because we want to, but because we have to. And we're always told how strong we are and how brave we are. But what you don't see is the shell of a devastated mother in private, behind closed doors, who can barely breathe through her grief. I once said to Dave, I need to leave this world. I need to be with Barney, and that you, Dave, can then look after Charlie. And it's not that I love one son more than the other. I just can't bear the thought of him being on his own. But there is still strength in me and there is still determination, and I will never stop. I will never stop this fight until this gross wrong has been righted, whatever it takes and for however long it takes. Chair, I thank you and your team for all that you have done and are doing in this much-needed statutory public inquiry. Do I think it will answer all that we need? No. But I do have faith that for the first time since this horror began, we are finally being provided with the truth and our voices are being heard. We've fought tooth and nail and we've given everything we've got alongside the Coates family and the Kumar family, and we are humbled by their strength and their love and their solidarity. Like Lee said, I wish we had not been forced to meet in this way, but I can honestly say they are all some of the very best of humanity in a world where our loved ones have faced the very worst of humanity. And we really are united now as a new family. We've had to fight and to challenge and to push back at every turn, every junction, and every crossroads. We fought so hard to make the progress we have, despite all that's been thrown at us. It's not for headlines, it's not for sympathy, but it's for the truth, for answers and for accountability. But let me be clear, this isn't just our story. As I've said, we're not the exception. We are the victims of systems, institutions and services that have failed and are failing and have been so for far too long. We have faced evasion, deflection, arrogance, avoidance, damage limitation, self-protectionism and downright lies so many times. The information provided, as you have heard, has been on a drip-fed, need-to-know and only if asked basis. Enough is enough. There has to be a line in the sand. In this room full of core participants, every single one, with the exception of the bereaved families and the survivors, have very many questions they must answer. So I implore you, do the right thing. Despite our grief and our pain, we've chosen to use our voices to make so much noise that we could not be ignored any longer. And this is our chance. We are also proof that this could happen to any family, anywhere, at any time. How many more Calicanes are still out there roaming the streets? My faith in our criminal justice system had all but been destroyed. However, I am glad to say that it has in part been somewhat restored. Certainly not by the agencies, as we have aforementioned, the police or the CPS particularly, but from the following: to Neil Hudgell, to Tim Maloney, Angela Patrick, and all of your teams, I thank you. We are so very, very blessed to have you. You have been the hand on our shoulders that we should have been offered from the very outset. And thank you for reaching out. Thank you for supporting us and picking us up at a time when we felt that every door had been slammed in our faces. There is still some good and decency out there. Most victims don't get this. We are fortunate, but all victims should. All victims deserve proper advocacy. The prior independent agency investigations that have taken place up until now, 11 at last count I believe, were not fit for purpose. Little more than marking of homework, tick box exercises and damage limitation dressed up as justice. My son was murdered at 19 years old by a violent, pernicious and dangerous 32-year-old man. allowed to roam the streets and unleash his planned attacks with his rucksack full of weapons and to ambush those weaker than himself. He chose his spot, he hid in the shadows, he knew what he was looking for. He allowed many people to pass before he found his first prey. And then that rucksack full of weapons were used in what I have had to learn is one of the most brutal attacks many of the long-serving police officers had ever seen. It is the stuff of nightmares and the true face of evil. Clearly a sick individual that's never disputed. However, it's one that knew what he was doing, he knew it was wrong and he did it anyway. A master manipulator and a ticking time bomb, a tragedy waiting to happen. Today, Chair, I ask this. Everything you've heard and that we've heard is from 2020 onwards. Until this inquiry, we were in the dark about his past, in the dark about the SIO's decision not to interview a key witness who had information about his mental health, potentially from 2012. Nothing was done. How can a senior operational police officer in charge not be interested in anything? How can that be professional policing? I hold no interest in his colour, his religion or his immigration status, or the fact that it was 3 days before his potential involvement in terrorism activities were discounted. What I want to know is why his movements in London on the 11th and 12th of June were never properly investigated. Why did he have extremist and highly disturbing propaganda on his phone a year before he murdered Barney? Why was it never made public? A second-rate investigation and a weak prosecution, such was the need to rush this through. Was it to prevent the fallout from countless missed opportunities being made public and shaming our criminal justice system and our healthcare systems? Those data breaches have caused us untold pain and unimaginable grief and horror. I've addressed what we want done with regards to those from Her Majesty's Courts, Her Majesty's Prison, Nottingham City Council, Nottingham University Hospital Trust and Nottinghamshire Police. It does not end here. We have asked for the investigations that haven't been fully completed and done properly to be reopened. They must be redone with full candour and rigour. A message to those who've taken part in any of these unlawful acts: you have my word that you will be held to account, because we have nothing to hide, defend or embellish. And lastly, I dropped my son to a city that wasn't safe to have him, and that's a burden I must bear. I don't want Barney to be forgotten, but I don't want his name to be defined alongside that of a monster. I want those who knew him and loved him to always remember the impact he had and the love of life that he brought and the difference he made in his all too short a time with us. Barney, I love you. And I miss you always. Thank you.
Thank you.